To Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, today is the third Monday of the month, which means it's time for Healing Spices with Dr. Sunil Pai. This is the 8th episode in a series, and he is already at the letter L and M, and he's actually going to be covering one of my favorite spices today. Can you guess which one it is among lemongrass, marjoram, mint, and mustard seed? Welcome back, Dr. Pai.
Thank you all thanks for inviting me. Thank you for having me. And let's get started. I can't believe it's already part 8. So this is amazing. I'm going to cover 4 things today: lemongrass, marjoram, mint, and mustard seed. Many people will know mint. We'll talk about that, but they may not know about marjoram. And most people who eat Asian food will know a little bit about mustard seed. And if you haven't had lemongrass, then definitely that's going to be something to talk about. But before we get started, I do want to let everybody know who are your listeners that we are having a holiday sale 23rd to the 27th here at SunJevanyStore.com, 10% off of everything. So if you want to try our Boss America or anything that I've mentioned in the past before, get a signed copy of my book, An Inflammation Nation, or if you even want to give a gift certificate or book a consultation yourself, I'd be glad to assist you or our other providers here like Maureen with Ayurvedic medicine and nutrition consultations. We can also do that all by telemedicine. So again, 10% off. Please go to sunjevanystore.com or sunjevany.net. Sign up for our newsletter. We have some cool videos coming out over the newsletter that will have lectures and some ideas and new wellness technologies that would be available for everybody. So enjoy the savings. Now, again, most of this information is coming from my book, An Inflammation Nation, and more importantly, coming from this wonderful book called Healing Spices, which I've been taking about 4 spices every show. We're on part 8, so we're getting to about 32 spices so far in herbs. Give you a little bit about a history, a little bit about the medicinal benefits, because although we want to eat a whole food plant-based diet, one of the most important aspects of eating this whole food plant-based diet is making food medicine, and making the food as medicine is actually an important part of getting the spices and herbs, because those are the things that have the strongest health benefits. And that's why a lot of people who go plant-based, they kind of eat these kind of bland, boring diets, and we're trying to incorporate world cultures and just getting that culinary aspect into bringing more flavor to the plant-based diet and really bring out why plant-based diets and people who eat them live longer and healthier lifestyles. So let's get started today with number 29 is lemongrass. It's called the calming spice. It is one of my favorites just because of the smell. Most people are used to the smell if they've gone to a spa. They use it as a lot of essential oils in like aromatherapy. If you have any kind of Thai food or a lot of Asian foods, if you've ever been to like Bali or Indonesia, lemongrass, you can just smell it wonderfully in the cooking in the food. But lemongrass, as you can see, it has this it's like a stocky it almost looks like an onion, kind of like a scallion almost. And it's this bulb here that has the strongest concentration of the lemongrass components, but it helps with lowering anxiety, has anti-cancer benefits, it helps reduce cholesterol, helps lower blood sugar, helps with seizures, insomnia, also helps with thrush and yeast infections. So like an anti-candida, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful smell. And just remember, it comes like this. And so a lot of people, what we want to do is when we cook with it, we want to chop the whole thing up. We can also steam it. We can also wrap, certain people who do like barbecue in other countries, we actually would use this as a stick. And we would they would put animal protein, but now we could put plant-based proteins on there, put tempeh, put tofus, put seitan, and wrap it. And then you can steam it or you can barbecue it. And the essence and the flavor of the lemongrass permeates through the flavors of the textured protein. So it's a wonderful way to get this just physically, aside of just cutting it up and chopping it and using it like a normal spice and vegetable. So the health benefits of lemongrass. So again, talking about anti-anxiety, they give it as in Brazilian medicine, traditionally they give it as an anti-anxiety aspect of a tea. And I always like to recommend people trying, if you haven't had lemongrass, we'll go buy some lemongrass. So you can make a lemongrass tea. Now you can buy them at the store, but I like to, if you can make it, go to the store, buy some lemongrass roots. And then what you want to do is you want to chop them up, in about a 1 inch, 1.5 inches, little stalks. You can get a cup of that. You can get 8 cups of water, and then start off with 2 cups. Take that full cup of the chopped lemongrass. Now, again, most people would use organic sugar of some kind, but if you want to use any kind of monk fruit, you want instead of sugar, or you can use some stevia or even some honey. You could do that to sweeten it. What you want to do is you want to bring it to a boil. Let it boil for a few minutes, and then you just, especially if you have sugar, you want it to melt and everything like that. And you want it to let it cool, let it cool down. So let it kind of steep for a while, let it cool down, then put it in a blender, and then high-speed blender, blend it till it's super, super fine. And then you want to pour it through a cheesecloth so you can pick up any of the rest of the particles. And the wonderful water that's below it makes the wonderful lemongrass tea. Then you can put it in the fridge and use it with some ice or other beverages as fantastic, smells great. It's wonderful, wonderful for the summertime and just very, very fragrant. Now, the anti-cancer benefits of lemongrass is very interesting because the lemongrass oil, they showed it's very powerful against 12 different types of cancer cells. And it's a dose-dependent reaction, meaning that the more the lemongrass was given and the higher concentration in the cell cultures, the stronger the anti-cancer effect was. But the interesting thing they found was there's a ingredient called citral that's found in the lemongrass, which is one of these anti-cancer components. And just showing a typical cup of lemongrass tea, like I mentioned before, how to make it, can actually kill cancer cells. So it's not like people have to, do juicing and take tons of it. Just like make a pitcher for it, and then drink it daily as just a regular tea. And you can actually mix the lemongrass with other teas as well as a flavoring. Sometimes people put it with lemonade. Sometimes people even use the lemongrass as a stick, just as a stirring stick. It adds a little bit of flavor to a cocktail or any kind of drink. It does protect against damaging effects of radiation. So this is something that we've been recommending now for our cancer patients who are undergoing, radiation treatments, or people who are getting excess CT scans or PET scans. Hey, why don't you drink some lemongrass that day, or even eat some lemongrass in some food? That will give you some, protective effects against the harmful effects of the radiation. It also has some antifungal, anti-yeast infections, so it can be used to treat thrush. It's also effective at yeast infections as well. For the insomnia here, as you can, since it has this anti-anxiety effect, it does just have this calming effect. So that's why when you go to spas and a lot of kind of, massage places, if you go to a fancy hotel, whatever, they usually have that smell of lemongrass that's kind of in the aromatherapy. It does lower cholesterol. So they took 140 milligrams of this, this is in standardized, 3 months, and it dropped the cholesterol 38 points and lowered the bad cholesterol, prevents oxidation because it's very strong antioxidant, and it actually increased HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and lowers triglycerides. And also in some other studies, it actually showed that it helped reduce seizures. So for those people who have seizures, this is something that they should probably be drinking regularly. This is something will be aiding in lowering the risk of seizures. So again, lemongrass is something that I recommend people to try because it's just so fragrant. Most of us will enjoy taking it. Now, if you've ever had any kind of Thai soup, tom yum soup, tom kha gai, I mentioned it before in some of the other videos before, is that's that little stick that's always in the soup. It gives us the soup, the Thai coconut, lemongrass flavors. It just pours out with the galangal and the various mushrooms and the lime and the little bit of tomato and the onions. It's just a very, very, very sweet and savory type of soup. So you can see that a lot with cooking. And in Asian food, they use it a lot with meat. Now I'm using a plant-based source, but they use it as a marinade. So again, you can like chop it up fine. Just how you do it, like a garlic or ginger, and you're making like a marinade or a rub. And you can do that with like vegan chicken or textured proteins. It's the wonderful, wonderful thing. And for those people who like banh mi, like those little sandwiches, when they have that lemongrass infused tofu, it's so delicious. It's one of my favorites when I go to Thai places, is to have the tofu banh mi, or the Vietnamese places, sorry, to have that kind of sandwich. But they use it a lot. You can see it in soups. We can use it in rice. So it's something that's really fragrant. It flavors it, and it also has some wonderful health benefits. It pairs with a lot of things. So black cumin, cardamom, chili, cinnamon, clove, coconut, coriander, cumin, fennel seed, fenugreek, galangal, again, which is similar like a ginger, garlic, ginger, onion, tamarind, and turmeric. And so these are what I like about it, is because these are my favorite things to cook with so far. I've covered a lot of these. And so it's something that you can add to a lot of dishes. And anytime, again, Asian stir fry is fantastic. Any kind of curry, fantastic. And then a marinade. If you like to marinate, any of the vegan meats or plant-based textured proteins, again, it's something that has this nice, wonderful flavor. It is not spicy at all. So it actually has a sweet flavor. And again, it's very fragrant. So you can steam it, you can bake with it, you can barbecue with it. And again, it infuses that wonderful aroma into food. So that is lemongrass. Now, marjoram. Marjoram is the Mediterranean miracle. Now, many people actually have tasted marjoram. They use it in the spice rack, but they don't really know much more about it. Marjoram has a lot of benefits. It has benefits with Alzheimer's disease and cognitive dysfunction. It does help with blood thinning, as most plants do, as an anti-inflammatory effect. It helps with cancer, fungal infections, heart disease, indigestion, bacterial infections, so it has an antimicrobial property. It also helps with pollution side effects, strokes, and ulcers. So this, I just wanted to put a picture because most of us, we get it in the store as a powder and it's dried. And, most people have really never seen, or, because we get it in the store as a spice, just kind of actually how it looks. It kind of similar, looks like a minty kind of plant. But marjoram is a wonderful spice. Now, why? This is quite interesting. Marjoram, aside of having its anti-cancer benefits, and especially they showed against human leukemia cells, is that in Italy, they were actually looking at a study of looking at antioxidants, and they were looking at the benefits of Mediterranean diet, right? Because everybody always wants to tout Mediterranean diet, focusing more on the vegetables, grains, legumes, fruits, and seeds and nuts, okay? And what they were looking at, combo of 30 different veggies and spices, right? So they were using olive oil and basil and parsley and garlic and rosemary and sage and red wine vinegar and all the things that you hear about Mediterranean food and just kind of wonderful fresh fruits and vegetables. And they were looking at the ORAC value. And most of you who know anything about supplements, or you look at, hear things about antioxidants, they'll always mention an ORAC value. ORAC value is kind of like the antioxidant capacity of that food. And the higher the ORAC value, the stronger or the more potent it is. So like vitamin C will have a certain amount of ORAC value. And then blueberries, for example, or omelette would even have even higher, for example. So the more that we eat of these foods, then the higher the ORAC value, the higher the protective benefits, the higher the health benefits that we actually get from the antioxidant properties. And one of the things that was really interesting is they had 30 different veggies and spices, and they tried different combinations. And they actually did, each time they made a combination, they tested it 4 times so they can get a good baseline of the total ORAC value. And then what they did is they found out with the marjoram, it's just by adding a teaspoon, just a teaspoon on the salad, right? Now you can even put it in a salad dressing, which is fantastic, right? It actually doubled the ORAC value of whatever dish. So it doesn't matter what combination of all these other antioxidants and wonderful things that everybody should be eating. It's just like adding that. So if you're having a salad or you're making a salad dressing, it's a great thing to be adding just 1 teaspoon. And that will just basically double the overall antioxidant capacity of the rest of the fruits and vegetables and wonderful anti-inflammatory plant foods. So it's a great thing to be adding. It has high levels of uracilic acid, carvacol, and thymol. And if you listen to my other previous parts of this healing spices theory series, you'll see that the thymol, all of these ingredients have really strong antioxidant and also therefore anti-cancer benefits. The uracilic acid is also nearly powerful as acetylcholine in increasing the brain function. So right now we know that when we have cognitive decline, that neurotransmitter and those kind of signals are kind of turned down. And in fact, this actually helps with releasing more of the body's own. So there's a little bit of like when we look at heart attacks and strokes, okay, they use it in Iranian traditional medicine. It actually decreases platelet aggregation, clumping by 40%. So instead of taking an aspirin that can cause GI bleed, one of the number 1 causes of GI bleed in America is just non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and also aspirin. But we want to look at these kind of aspects that when we look at these like Mediterranean diets, when we look at these other kind of European diets and even Middle Eastern diets, when we're eating these kind of herbs and we say, gosh, these people live a very long time, it's because these things are helping their brain. These things are helping prevent cancer. These things are helping with heart attacks and strokes. These are the things that people here in the United States die from, or they actually have high rates of incidence. So these are things that we have to look at, just adding a little bit. So if you never tried some marjoram, go get some marjoram organic at the store. It does have some antimicrobial effects, as I mentioned before. It can knock out some candida, E. coli, and Staph aureus. If you go back to my previous episodes, you'll see that a lot of the plants have antimicrobial, antifungal properties. And it's not only just for us eating it right now, which gives us benefit, but if you think back, we've only had refrigeration for about 200 years. And so if you think back, all these cultures going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years and eating these wonderful foods, at that time, without refrigeration, you can get contamination, you can get, foodborne illness, you can also get spoilage. And all these natural herbs and spices have like a protection and antimicrobial properties, like a natural preservative. When they store it, when they kept these foods, it prevents certain infections from occurring. So this is the one thing of like, we take foods here, we get sick, but the idea is like having the foods prevented to you not getting sick to begin with is a key. It does improve digestion, and here's a fantastic thing: is it triggers the release of pepsin. Now, it's a protein digestive enzyme by increasing it by 30%. So a lot of us, who have trouble and they take digestive enzymes, which we offer, chewable digestive enzymes and capsule, plant-based kind. And some people take pancreatic enzymes and all, but here, just taking the marjoram, it helps the body's own production, which is fantastic, of increasing the pepsin by itself. So this is fantastic. And then interesting thing is, so due to the high antioxidant activities in the studies that were showing that it actually should be used for those people who have low levels of lead exposure. It protects them from having kidney and liver damage. So I see a lot of people on social media always talking about like detoxing and taking like bentonite clays or charcoals or carbon products, and those are the kind of, yes, they do bind, but they're just kind of gimmicky, right? Like they're just kind of binders. They also can bind other good things, but they're not really feeding the body, right? They're just like depleting the body. And we're always looking at, if you go back to my previous series, you can see that a lot of these herbs also have protection against heavy metals, aka another reason why we should be going towards a plant-based diet. So it can help us against environmental protections, and also can offset some of the damages that those people who eat animal protein or high inflammatory diets. It can also, remember, there's also a bioaccumulation of toxins in animal protein. So these are things that we get from the environment, knowingly and unknowingly, from our water, the air, the wind. There was actually a study that came out, which I'll talk about sometime later, another show, talking about plastics and about we get about a credit card now almost on a weekly or bi-weekly, bi-monthly basis of even breathing now microplastics from the environment. So all these things that we're looking at, detoxification is very, very key. But marjoram is one thing I strongly recommend. And again, 1 teaspoon on a salad or put in a salad dressing, wow, and doubling your antioxidant capacity rather than taking more antioxidants. That's a very inexpensive way to get a bang for your buck. And examples of marjoram, and there's tons of them, but I want to show you here, like it's used like in soups, it's used in like pastas. I love the butternut squash ravioli with sage and marjoram. It has this wonderful flavor. You can even bake with it, so they bake bread like ciabatta breads. It goes great with tomatoes and stuff like that. You can even bake this. So there was a wonderful recipe for a leek and celiac phyllo. Is a vegan phyllo tart, delicious. So these ways that you can add it, but most people just get the spice and just make it into a salad dressing, just like you would use any other type of herbs in a salad dressing. Now it pairs with basil, celery, cumin, garlic, oregano, parsley, rosemary, sage, sun-dried tomatoes, and thyme. And so you can see like these are all the things that we also put in dressings, right? So that's why it goes really easy, like oregano and parsley, rosemary, sage. How many times we all get a balsamic vinegar or some kind of oil and vinegar, or, and we mix those things, or we just sprinkle it on some of our vegetables. It's a very easy thing. It goes right in along with it, so highly recommend it. And it complements beans, bell peppers, cabbage, again, salad dressings, tomato sauces, and white sauces. So these are things that if you're making a pasta sauce, you can throw that in there, just like you would throw a little bit of parsley, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of rosemary. You can add that in there for the wonderful health benefits of marjoram. Now, number 31 is mint.
Yay!
And this is your favorite, the essence
Yes.
of freshness. Mint, interesting enough, it is one of the most popular, most identified flavors and smells worldwide, right? And there's peppermint, which is usually on the sweeter side, which is kind of usually made into candies and desserts and stuff. And then there's the savory part, which we usually get in the store, which is more of a spearmint. Even though they call it mint, it's more of a spearmint.
I always wondered about that because when you go to the regular grocery store, it literally just says mint. And
It just
I
says
don't,
mint.
yeah.
Yeah. And so the mint that we get at the store is actually spearmint. And that has that savory flavor. And when they use it for mint and like, can like holidays, right? We're getting that's going to be a peppermint in the same family, just a different part of the species. But they actually get more of that, a slightly different flavor. They get a sweeter flavor rather than the savory flavor that we get. But I love mint just as much as you. I can Mint and cilantro are kind of like my favorites. Like I just have them growing all the time because mint grows really easily in your yard, in your backyard. You can grow them in little cups and stuff like that, little pots outside. Helps for allergies, anxiety, stress. Actually, breastfeeding problems. So if they make a mint water, women who are having problems with the nipple having irritation from breastfeeding, it's a wonderful thing. Just getting a little bit of mint water and putting it on the breast will actually help with that healing properties for that common problem. Instead of putting some kind of cream or something that usually gynecology or pediatrics kind of give women, this is something that's natural that again even the baby ingests is totally safe. Has a lot of anti-cancer benefits. Helps with respiratory issues like cough and COPD, fatigue, mental issues. It has a stimulatory effect on that. Wonderful for gingivitis and tooth decay, as we all know through toothpaste. Hirsutism, which I'll talk about in a second, indigestion, IBS, menopause, menstrual cramps, PCOS, and also post-herpetic neuralgia, which is like a neuropathy that we get from shingles or any kind of viral outbreak. But mint, 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 love it, love it, love it. I can't never get enough of mint. I just love the smell of it. Makes me happy.
I love it too. In everything, savory or sweet.
Yes, mint is fantastic, and one of the things that I mentioned, on our newsletter, if you sign up, Sangevny.com or Sangevny store.com, Sangevny.net, sorry, and Sangevnystore.com, you can sign up. There's a product called Jiva, and we're actually giving 10% off of those over the holiday. But these are actually tested, clinically patented. It's a technology. It's really it's a simple thing that you can use, but it actually will increase the yield of your growth of your crops. So if you're growing crops or yield, they'll grow up about 30 to 40%, increasing the nutrient density and also the amount without fertilizers, without, it's kind of an innovative technology. So there's a lecture that if you go on, you'll get it over the holiday weekend. I'll send out a video on that. So mint, stress, anxiety, and cancer. So interesting enough, as we all know, I mean, we probably hear it and smell it more often as peppermint oil, peppermint oil. Anybody who's in essential oils, so you go anywhere right now during the holidays, right? We have like the mints family, and then we have, remember, like the cinnamons that you smell the cinnamon sticks, and then you smell the peppermint sticks, right? We kind of have that going around right now in the grocery markets and the retailers. Anti-cancer activities. So it does help with lung, prostate, liver, stomach, bladder, brain, oral, and blood cancers. They actually had a study where peppermint oil spray that women use reduced the chemo-induced hot flashes that are in breast cancer when we have to give them hormone blockers. So it's a nice little thing that we can do, is just getting some peppermint oil in the house, aside of with cooking with it. When we take the menthol is the the cooling part of mint, right? And so that's the part that gives you that sensation. So when people think of like an icy hot or a Bengay and all those things, what they're pulling out right now, which is now made chemically though, is the menthol, which actually originally comes from mint, and that creates that coolingness that when you rub a salve or put any kind of cream, it has that like that tingling, cooling sensation. A study showed that applying the peppermint oil containing 10% menthol resulted in immediate improvement of pain for 4 to 6 hours. So when people have, a shingles, and shingles is painful, it almost feels it's like your skin is on fire. It can last several weeks, sometimes a couple of months. And people, there's really not much conventionally they can give to really tone it down. Bosmeric is very, very helpful at lowering that inflammation. But this is a topical here. You can actually get some a peppermint oil and put it on, and that will help with that. Even in one of the chapters, there's actually a PN Neurogen. It's a patented form of that's actually given in other countries as a topical for post-herpetic neuralgia. So other countries have been using this actually as a medical treatment. Now, gastrointestinal support. So fantastic studies. Now in Europe, they actually give it all over the place. It actually comes enteric coated. They want it enteric coated because they want it to pass the stomach to get into the lower, smaller, and the large intestine. So that's why they have enteric coated peppermint oil capsules in most of these clinical trials. But 50% reduction in IBS symptoms. They recommend taking it about 15 to 30 minutes before a meal. 79% reduction in abdominal pain reduction. 83% reduction in bloating, 84% less bathroom trips, lowers indigestion 60 to 95%. That's pretty good. And one interesting thing I did see, which I learned very interestingly, is that in Japan and some other countries, they actually give the peppermint oil prior to an endoscopy and prior to a colonoscopy because it lowers the spasms. It lowers the spasms of the esophagus and the stomach. It also lowers spasms of the colon. And so a lot of people, they have trouble when they have colonoscopies because they can induce spasm, right? Because we're putting these scopes into, inside of us. And so how simple is that? Like we don't do that here in America, but we should just follow these other countries like this, or if not, make sure you take some peppermint oil maybe a few hours before you go into your scope, or maybe a few hours of, drink some peppermint tea or something, because again, they might have some restrictions, but there's certain things that you can add that would definitely lower some potential side effect. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. IBS patients definitely should be taking a lot of peppermint oil, peppermint products, eating mint products, drinking mint tea. Cavities and gum disease, as we all know, peppermint, right? Because we always think of peppermint not only like from the sweets and candy, but we also think of like toothpaste, because usually toothpaste has like a spearmint or peppermint. But the only thing I always want to recommend people is that when you're looking at a natural toothpaste, it actually should have like real peppermint oil. If it just has peppermint flavor, which you'll see a lot of now, then it's not going to give you that really antimicrobial aspect that has been shown in the clinical studies to prevent tooth decay and also help build up the plaque. So you don't want it just for the freshness of the breath per se. You want it for all the health benefits. So make sure that there's real peppermint or spearmint oil in there rather than a flavor on the ingredients. Now, work performance. Menthol, which again, the part of the mint, that's that wonderful aroma. If you sniff it, they did these studies. It was actually with secretaries, receptionists, and also they had a study also with nurses. And if they sniff the peppermint oil before doing a task, it actually improved the speed and the accuracy of typing and actually of filing. Like alphabetically, their mind can actually work a little bit faster. It promotes a general arousal of attention. So wonderful thing to do is just, have some peppermint if you're working on a project, or if you're a student, you got to study. These are things that you kind of like have some peppermint oil, maybe in a diffuser, make some peppermint tea, super simple things to eat actually as well. But that aroma of getting that menthol can actually kind of awaken the mind simply without having unwanted need of caffeine or some kind of energy drink, which would have a side effect. And also, what is very interesting here is inhaling peppermint oil lowers post-op nausea 29%. So, how easy would this be for the post-op staff, the nurses, and the physicians and assistants and stuff, and anesthesiologists waking you up, just kind of having a little bottle of peppermint oil reduces nausea 29%. I mean, this is fantastic. We should be recommending, or if you are going into, say, a surgery, you should have your family members or friends, or even talk to them, say, can you have one of these little bottles so that once you wake up, they can kind of, have you sniff it a little bit. That would also help lower some post nausea, particularly for patients who've had difficulty before with anesthesia and have history of it. Then this would be a great way to prevent the next problem. And also for PCOS, this is something that I learned also, which is quite interesting. A lot of times with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome in women, is they get something called hirsutism, which is they get unwanted, facial hair and body hair. It's due to their body actually producing too much testosterone. And there was a study just drinking spearmint tea twice a day for a month reduced the abnormal levels of testosterone. This is something that we see a lot of women now with PCOS, and we have a lot of herbs and stuff that are given for kind of helping some of the symptoms. But this is something so simple and cheap that you can use, spearmint tea. Again, try to get organic. You can make your own. Just grow some, grow the mint and do it yourself. But that's a great way to help lower the hormone rather than taking either a hormone blocker or having sometimes unwanted surgery. Now, examples of mint, my favorite coming from an Indian standpoint is mint chutney. My mom and my grandmother, they're kind of known for making wonderful Indian food. My mom actually had 2 Indian restaurants in the 80s and the 90s. That got Best Taste of Denver for like 10 years going. mint chutney was one of the things that people were really happy at using. Let me see. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure there's not a. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. Your voice changed a little bit, but I think it's fine now.
Let's see. Hopefully it comes back. Okay, hopefully that's back.
Yeah, it's kind of going in and out like a microphone type thing, you know?
Sure, why? Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. This technical difficulties today. Right, hopefully that will. Hopefully you guys can hear me. So mint chutney, my mom used to be so famous making this famous mint chutney. People used to buy. They would want to come to a restaurant and they would buy it like in like almost gallons. And in fact, her mint chutney. There was a famous restaurant in Santa Monica, and they used to actually have her ship, in these like 5 gallons, and they would use it for their appetizers and their.
You know what? There is a microphone problem, so maybe either use it or don't use it, because what's happening is the sound is going. It's like going in and out. You know.
I don't know what's happening.
It doesn't bother me, but I'm just telling you.
Yeah, let me see if I can. I don't know why it's going in and out. Well,
it's good now.
Keeps on going.
Right now it sounds fine.
Yeah, I think it's coming from the computer now.
Yeah. Oh, we'll do our best.
Not sure why it was working earlier. If you can hear me now. It keeps on jumping.
It is. Sometimes it's a little tinny, but I can hear you.
Okay. So wonderful thing about mint is that it does go on melons really well. So a lot of people forget about mint that way. So watermelon, any of the melon, when it's great for salads, great for putting on pastas. And a lot of people know mint for drinks, right? So like a mint julep or a mojito, or just any kind of even putting a little bit of mint in there would be beneficial. But mint is one of my favorites. And again, it goes with a lot of things. It goes with allspice. I'm not sure what's happening here. Basil, cardamom, chili, cinnamon, coriander, cumin, fennel seeds, lemongrass, onion, rosemary, sage, sesame seed, and thyme. And again, it complements a lot of things. So chutneys is one of the favorite things. Berries, curries, any kind of curry. Mangoes wonderfully, and papaya. The fruits and the melon go great with mint. So definitely, if you're eating any kind of mangoes or papaya or melons, just chop up a little, sprinkle it on there. Peas, and then we make a lot of. We have like a yogurt-based drink. You can make them plant-based. That's what I do now. But we have like a raita, and we make a mint and a cucumber. A little bit of it's like a salad. It's like a yogurt salad, and that's usually to cool our palate when we're eating like hot spice and spicy food.
So there's a suggestion from Richard to toggle your mic on and off, or maybe don't even use it and just use your computer mic like I'm doing if you have a Mac. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, I don't know much about other computers, but
I don't know. I've never had this problem before. So
I know you never have, and you've been on many times.
Okay, let me see if this will work. If not. It keeps doing that. I have to exit. Give me 1 second then.
Sure.
Let me see if I can.
Due to a technical. I wanted to say while you're doing that, Dr. Pai. Oh, let me put myself on screen. Hi. Hello. Oh, let me put my light back on then. Okay, he's back.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let me just try this.
Okay, that actually might be worse because you were going in and out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
So let's start again, okay?
Okay.
Let's go back.
I feel like a commercial. Can you hear me now?
I know. All right, we're now on mustard seed. And mustard seed is one of my favorites. It is used throughout all Asian and Indian food. It's something that a lot of people think of mustard as the yellow mustard that we think of like putting on a hot dog or, those kind of hamburger, kind of like mustard that we see that way. But there's another type of mustard, which is brown mustard and black mustard, which I'll talk about. Mustard seed has great
it's still a problem. It's a different problem, but your voice is going in and out. It's like we can hear you and then we can't hear you.
Okay. 1 second, then let me add.
Sometimes when you say, "Can you hear me?" I say yes, but then it goes to nothing.
All right. Give me 1 second then.
Okay. All right. Well, while he's working that, what I was going to tell you guys is when he talked about mint. Let's see if he comes back. At the True North Health Center, you can't take medication when you're fasting. And so I threw up during the fast and I was nauseous. And so what they gave us was in a specimen cup, they took cotton, little tiny cotton balls, and soaked it in mint essential oils. And we sniffed it, and that really helped with nausea. And that's something that I continued. Well, I haven't been nauseous since, but it was really great that was their treatment, and it seems to really work. Hopefully he'll come back. I'll tell you who's on the show tomorrow. Tomorrow we have 2 shows. At 11 o'clock, we have Vegan Michelle. And at 2 o'clock, we have Vinegar and Spice and Everything Nice with Thomas Allen from California Balsamic and Nick DeVorn from Local Spicery. He's going to be rolling out a brand new seasoning that he has. I may as well tell you who's on the rest of the week until Dr. Pai comes back. And if you want the schedule, it gets sent to you either the Saturday or Sunday. We send it out every week if you're a subscriber at chefaj.com. And then that's the best way to ask questions is we send you the email and you simply respond to it with who it's for. They need to be short. It's best to specify who it's for. But with doctors, if you say any doctor, it gets answered sooner because we have a backlog from lots of doctors like Dr. McDougall, Dr. Krant, Dr. Lyle. Are you back, Dr. Pai?
We'll see if this works. Hopefully it does.
So far, so good.
I have to use the camera microphone for some reason, so.
That's okay. At least we can hear you.
Let's start it now. All right, mustard seed. So again, mustard seed, most people think of mustard as coming from, we think of the yellow mustard seed because that's what we think of, yellow mustard. But there's actually 3 types. There's a brown type, which is European or Asian or called Chinese mustard usually in the culinary world. And then there's the Indian or black mustard seeds, which are actually 30% hotter and spicier than the brown. Again, yellow is the most mild. It is good for, prostate cancer, cholesterol, lung, blood sugar, and heart disease. Now, what we usually do for most people who understand spice or learning more about spices, if you ever went to an Asian restaurant, as I mentioned many times before, we put a little bit of oil in the pan. Now, when I say a little bit, like less than a teaspoon, not a lot, but we always put our spices in first, right? Because when we're heating, we always want to activate the spices. And the mustard seeds are something that needs to be activated. You don't just throw it in food. You actually kind of got to heat it. So we usually just put a little bit in the pan. A lot of times people can actually roast the mustard seed, also dry roast it a little bit. But we usually put a little bit of oil in the pan. We put a little bit of mustard seeds, depending on the recipe. And then we usually throw in all our other spices, right? So whether it's turmeric or coriander or ginger or garlic or a little bit of onions, and we just let it simmer. And then what we do is we wait until the mustard seeds start to pop. And once they start going pop, 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 in fact, when I was a kid, in India and whatnot, sometimes they have a nickname called putt putt because it's when the pan starts going putt, 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 that's when it's ready to now add your other ingredients. So it's like you put it in the pan, takes about 30 seconds to a minute to heat up. And then once it starts to pop, then that means that the herbs and spices are ready. And then you can throw all the rest of your vegetables or grains or other ingredients. So that's just a little tip that a lot of people put mustard seeds in and they don't let it cook enough. And they don't activate that wonderful health benefits and also aromas. Now, interesting thing is that we also use a lot of times in Asian mustard seed oil. Now, it is a little bit spicy, so just letting you know, it's not like something like an olive oil, which is kind of savory. It's a little pungent. But there were studies that showed that people who use mustard seed oil versus a sunflower oil had 51% lower heart disease risk.
Okay, it lowers the bad cholesterol. It also increases the HDL. So although we're trying to reduce oil in the diet, standard American diet, usually canola oil, usually GMO, and those kind of things like that, and corn oil, trying to reduce all those pro-inflammatory oils. But if you were to use an oil in a dish, you might want to try a little bit of mustard seed oil. Again, it has a little bit of a spicy pungentness to it, but you're also extracting in the oil some of these health benefits. From an anti-cancer benefit, one thing that people forget about with the mustard seed, it is part of the cruciferous family. So when they look at these components called glucosinolates, these are the kind of wonderful anti-cancer benefits that we see in broccoli and Brussels sprouts and kale and cabbage. And in fact, we see all these things now then converting into sulforaphanes and all these other things that we have now, dietary supplements that have been patented and that we give the patients for certain health conditions. But one thing is that the mustard seed is still in the same family, but it has a higher concentration of what they call alloisothionates, AITC, and it's stronger, it's more concentrated. Now it does have that little bit of spiciness and pungent, so that's the other benefit for some of us, and some of us it might be too spicy, but you want to add a little bit into your diet. It's really good because it is for those people like, well, I can't have too much broccoli or the Brussels sprouts, it causes me gas, or in the cabbage causes a little bloating, but we still want to have the anti-cancer benefits. You still want to have high ALA, alpha linolenic acid, which comes, as omega-3 from plants. We also get it from walnuts, we get it from chia seeds, we get it from flax seeds, we get it from hemp seeds, but we also get it from mustard seeds. Now, again, we're not going to be, juicing it or having tons of it, but adding this daily anytime you're making a curry or any kind of sauce, it's a great thing. It reduces colon cancer 50% in the study of those people who consume mustard seed regularly. And so sometimes we have to look at how these people are eating these foods, all the other nutrients that are kind of synergizing. It does help with insulin resistance and diabetes. It lowers glucose and insulin levels. And those people who are taking medications and then they added a little bit of mustard seed into the diet, it actually enhanced the benefits of the drug. So it's kind of had this synergistic effect with medications. It also, in traditional Chinese medicine and also in Ayurvedic medicine, we use mustard seed oil and mustard seed. We actually make a poultice. It's like a plaster that we make with, it's like with a cloth, and we make a paste with the spices, and then we make it as a pack and we put it on the chest. And it absorbs via the skin. And they did a wonderful study, and they were showing it in China when they do that, and they put on the plaster in the chest. Just from that treatment, those patients for a year had less overall COPD symptoms, such as coughing and breathlessness, and also increased immune system factors. So how easy is that, right? This is why we have to go back and think of like, gosh, we're taking steroids, we're taking, albuterol, we're taking all these things for COPD patients, but this is something that actually can provide a long-term benefit for just even minimal use. It is very, very rich in nutrients. So calcium, iron, manganese, zinc, potassium, selenium, vitamin C, K, B1, B2, B6, and folic acid. So these are things that, again, people think of like, oh, I only can get this from my vegetable, but they forget that we have this as spices. So when you start adding these things, then you're like, doubling, tripling the benefits, right? So you're adding, it's a synergy. So a lot of people who go to plant-based diets, they think of like just kale and just eat tons of like one vegetable or one grain or one fruit, and it's a super food or super like that, and we don't look at that way. When we try to blend all these things together, there's a synergy and complementing each other. And it also helps with brain health. So we see that the mustard seed oil facilitates your astrocyte development. Astrocytes are the cells that help with the relaying of the neurotransmitters. They also help when we have damaged neurons. So again, keeping the brain active. So when we think of, again, with memory, functions or memory dysfunctions, as we see more in the public population going forward, it's like, how can we encourage people to start eating more? And then again, when we look at certain cultures that have longer lifespans or higher mental function at older ages, is because they're consuming these spices that are actually having strong medicinal benefits. Again, food is medicine is a way to bring the mustard seed back into the diet. Now, I love mustard seed because most of us right now, like for the holidays, you'll think of yellow mustard seeds, right? So you'll think of like potatoes with black and yellow mustard seeds. It's always you put sprinkled on like cauliflower dishes and stir fries. It has a great flavoring. South Indian, we make a lemon pilaf, cauliflower with cashews and wonderful other spices, but it's always been used heavily. And then again, the yellow mustard that most people are very familiar with here in the United States. But add a little bit of more of these mustard seeds that you'll see, like do it like roasting some potatoes or putting some stir fry some cauliflower with it. It's a great way to add a little bit of more health benefits. And remember, it does have a little bit of spice, but you can also use the yellow, but the black is going to have the strongest. So you might have a little bit of mixture of sometimes using a little bit more yellow, sometimes a little bit of brown. And then eventually, if you want to start adding black, or you can do a mixture to get to that point where you can tolerate it, or if it's not too spicy, you can enjoy it as well. And it pairs with, allspice, black cumin, cardamom, cinnamon, clove, coriander, cumin, fennel, galangal, ginger, star anise, tamarind, and turmeric. And it complements interesting, beer, very interesting, ale, mustard seed goes. Brussels sprouts, again, my favorite, cabbage, cauliflower, my favorite, curries, pickles, and sauerkraut. So these are things that you can use definitely to help complement adding some mustard seed into the diet. And lastly, again, I wanted to mention that we do have a sale coming. So for all the listeners here on Chef AJ's program here, I want you to make sure that you can take off 10% from November 23rd, 27th on any of the products wonderful at our store, sunjevenystore.com. Go to sunjeveny.net to learn more about our services. Get a bottle of Bosmeric or get a signed copy of my book, and also give a gift to yourself or to someone else. Do an integrative medicine consultation with me or Dr. Sutton in my practice. And that is it for the spices part 8, lemongrass, marjoram, mint, and mustard seed.
Nice. Thank you. I don't know if you heard what I said when you were trying to fix the sound about how at True North, the fasting center, when you're nauseous, they actually soak cotton balls in mint, and they have you sniff it.
Right.
And it works really well.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say with when we use the oils, just letting you know, because I love the food and I love using oils when appropriate. A lot of people, when we do essential oils, like sniffing is great and topicals are great with the carrier oil always. But we have to be careful when people think about drinking essential oils, because they actually can be very caustic. And a lot of people, there's a lot of companies that sell multi-level marketing. There's 2 or 3 of them that make $6 billion of selling essential oils. And there's all this essential oil revolution summits that you've seen in the last couple of years. People drink the essential oil, but actually can cause esophageal burning. And sometimes, a lot of those things have antimicrobial properties, but they're very, very strong. When you eat it from a food, it's a balancing effect. When we hyper concentrate it in an essential oil, it's like taking an antibiotic. So for a short-term use when people are sick, fantastic. But when people take it daily, like a preventative, then it's like taking amoxicillin daily. They wouldn't do that. That would disrupt their microbiome. And unfortunately, no one tells them, when they think, oh, this is natural, it's only going to work on the bad guys, but also works on the good guys as well. So I always kind of avoid using the essential oils internally unless it's really specific.
Thank you. Linda says, is there a discount code for the 10%?
No, it's just at checkout. So you just go on Thanksgiving to Cyber Monday, and it'll be added at checkout, the 10%. There is a discount code for the Jiva products though, and that's going to be in our newsletter, and that's on our website as well.
And is this for new patients and services as well?
No, it doesn't apply for our services or new patients. That's separate, but our store products is definitely discounted for people to enjoy. And I hope that's a way to people to try some of the things that we've been talking about over the last year or so coming on your show. So it's something like, hey, let me try a bottle of this, or let me get a book, or let me book a consultation, and we can look at my food sensitivities, my microbiome, my nutrition, and kind of like, evaluate my medications if I'm on them. And is there anything I can do with my diet and lifestyle to enhance it, go further plant-based? I really enjoy all the patients have received from your program, because they're already motivated. They understand, and not everybody's fully plant-based, but just having that awareness and that drive, saying I want to learn more and I'm willing to make some dietary lifestyle changes, that gives the biggest bang for your buck.
Oh, I'm so glad you got patients from this. That's wonderful.
Oh, I get tons of people, which is great. They all come in saying, hey, I saw you on Chef AJ and I want to go further.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm waiting for that check. I'm kidding, of course. No, I'm so happy that.
And one of the things that a lot of people sometimes, think that you got to be 100% plant-based, to talk to me. Or sometimes they feel like, oh, I saw, watching Chef AJ, but I can't book an appointment until I'm fully there yet. And we're not like that. We're always about risk reduction. We're not about perfection. So my goal is to go through everybody's diet, lifestyle, behaviors and reduce the risk as much as possible. We do use substitutes. We do alternatives. We find, transition foods if need be. Because the idea is, as long as their levels are good, as long as their blood sugar goes down, as long as their cholesterol goes down, as long as their blood pressure and weight go down, then we're not so nitpicky, because we're looking at the totality of all their lifestyle factors rather than just one parameter. And so this is something for people to understand that that's what we do. And also Maureen in my practice, Dr. Sutton, she can do Ayurvedic consultations and nutrition as well. And so we kind of pair together and we kind of bring best of both worlds of how we approach our patients.
Great. Thanks. And people are saying, what's the website again?
Sanjevani.net is our clinic, SANJEVANI.net. That's our clinic. And the store for the discount for the holidays is Sanjevani, SANJEVANI, store, STOR.com.
And do you see people in person, virtually, both?
We do both. So people are here locally, or they like to drive. I'm in Albuquerque. Then I love to see people in person. But for most of our patients, they're from afar. They're from California all the way to Qatar. Hey, we got people all over England and Europe, and I even have just 2 patients the other day from South Africa. So it's a great thing because everybody's understanding like we need evidence-based. And someone who's an MD who's had the most experience of all these different types of training, from acupuncture to Ayurveda to doing plant-based as well. But when we look at using food as medicine or natural products, we have to look at efficacy, potency, purity, and safety. And that's my level of expertise, is of finding those type of products. So it's not just an off the shelf. Everything that we're looking at has to have clinical data to back it.
Wow. So efficacy, potency, purity, and safety.
Right. That's our mantra. That's been our mantra since day one. I think actually there's a couple of companies that have now taken that and started using that in their advertising, because that's all about, it's, which we'll see is why we push food as medicine, is because unfortunately the dietary supplement industry every day is getting dinged because there's so much fraud in the dietary supplements. And now even on Amazon, if you looked at the last couple of Consumer Reports testing, they were showing 30, 40 major brands. They're not just minor brands, but major brands were all like fake. So like the retailers don't even understand what's happening. So people are making it, say, another country like China or India, and then they're selling it, and it looks exactly the same label, same bottle, even in glass, and it's not even from the company. And those products then fail because it's just about adulteration and copying. So it's kind of the challenge. So when people come to our store, we have vetted those products. And so those products have passed GMP, certificate of analysis. We're looking at patent ingredients at clinical doses. So when we give something to lower blood pressure, or blood sugar, or cholesterol, or lower the inflammation, we can say it does because it does. Where everybody else is just marketing, because most people come to me and say, oh, I've taken this, or I've taken something in that category. And I go, well, usually not. Because unfortunately, not their fault, is that the industry has pretty much been cheated. So that's why we kind of push food as medicine as much as possible. And I'll give you an example. When we do the nutrition testing, when it comes back, it tells you like all your antioxidants, all your B vitamins, all your omega-3, 6, 7s, and 9s, toxicities, and amino acids, and zinc and magnesium and minerals. But also tells you what foods those nutrients are heavily concentrated in, so that we can then say, eat more of these foods. Like it's quite simple. And then supplements are only supplementing the diet, not replacing the diet ever. So we always want to give targeted effects. So if someone comes in with a certain condition, then these are the things in evidence in the studies that will show that would be beneficial. But it shouldn't be replacing the diet, nor it shouldn't be redundant. We're trying to always add another pathway, another benefit. And that's why like using some of these spices are great, because that's ways that you can keep augmenting the health of the individual without actually them having to take another pill.
Nice. If you change your acronym to potency, efficacy, purity, and safety, it can be PEPS.
There we go.
Yeah. So Susanna is saying, is it safe for a pregnant woman to inhale peppermint essential oil when they're nauseous?
I don't think there's going to be any contraindication on that. I'm not a gynecologist, so I wouldn't know that, but I don't think there's any issues with that. I would not take it internally as an oil, but sniffing it and breathing it would be okay. The only thing that I would be careful of, though, also with oils, though, is that there might be some adulteration just even with oils with fragrances. So that's the other thing of like getting the, if you're getting an essential oil, just make sure that you go to a store, try to get organic when you can, because you don't want to have any other kind of, because a lot of oils that are really cheap and down have fragrance or some kind of plant that sometimes is in the similar family, but it's not. So there's a lot of lavenders, there's a lot of different types of herbs and plants that have like families. So it's an offshoot, and then they can add like an adulterant to enhance it, but it's not really the pure thing. But I don't think there's any contraindication for that.
Great. And let's see, there's a question from Connie. How long is dried marjoram good for?
Like all spices, I like to use everything within a year, sometimes 6 months, depending on how big the bottle is and how much you use. But after that, I throw it out and get a new one. That's why I always tell people, like, I got a wonderful email the other day from a client of your show, and they're asking like, what kind of, where do you get your spices, or what are places I can buy in bulk? So I said, hey, these are a couple of different companies, but you really want to have a place where there's turnover. So if you go to a store, like I go to, there's different grocery stores in Albuquerque, and some of them have the spices, and they kind of go out pretty well because a lot of people are shopping for that. And some stores will have it and it's kind of sitting and not moving. Then you always want to also check the expiration date when you buy it. So that's another thing, because remember, there's a time that they manufacture it and they're going to have like a year or 2 year expiration date. If it's coming close to that, then I would wait for the next batch, or even order online and try to get it fresher sooner.
So what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I am going to make, actually Marina is going to be making with us. We make an annual, we make vegan enchiladas.
Wow,
actually, it's a vegan pumpkin
good.
enchilada. We'll probably share the recipe on after we finish this series, but there's a couple of our, like, we do vegan tamales and we do vegan enchiladas. We kind of do a southwestern blend. We don't do the turkey and all that kind of stuff like that, so it's kind of been overdone. And so we do this great kind of pumpkin enchiladas. In fact, we had the class last week here at our center, and so we had people come in. They actually were making vegan tamales, so we taught them how to make the masa, how to make the mixtures and all. They went home and they steamed them and they served it to the family. They'll be making it again, and then we'll do the pumpkin enchiladas usually for the holidays as well.
Wow, well, you gotta come and do a demo one day. You've talked.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out how to do the camera, because
okay, so there's a couple of ways we can do it, and we can talk to some of the people that have regular shows that are doing two cameras, or if somebody can help you, you can do it like on an iPhone and they can hold it. You won't be able to see, but I think we just need to see.
Yeah, because we have a cooking table with the mirror and all in our yoga room, and we sit about 40 people, and so we have these wonderful classes and people come, and so we do it regularly, cooking classes for our community. We give a lecture, so like last month was breast cancer awareness month, so I gave a lecture on breast cancer, and then we had a bowl, we call it a breast cancer kicking bowl of all the antioxidants, phytonutrients. So we actually had people participate, and then everybody got to try it, and so it's a wonderful thing. So we kind of really take it into action. A lot of people talk, but we actually walk the walk, which is nice. And so people could come and say, hey, everybody here in my practice is plant-based. Everybody, we've been doing this since 2006, which is when we transitioned over. We were kind of more Mediterranean before that. And we have a great success of treating people from all around the world.
Wow. Do you ever go anywhere like the Plantrician Conference or California? I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, well, we should. Since the pandemic, it kind of got slowed down but now everything's opening up. I should go. Sometimes I go to the PPODs, the Prevention of Plant-Based Disease Conference. And then I always go to the International Conference of Nutrition and Medicine, the ICNM conference in Washington, D.C. I recommend everybody who's watching this online if you're anywhere near D.C. in August every year. It's for the public, and it's, physicians and other therapists and practitioners get CME, but that's the most evidence-based 3-day conference, all plant-based. About 800 people to 1,000 people show up from around the world. And that's when you want to really learn about like heart disease, diabetes, cancer. These are all the clinical trials. These are all the studies. So they're not selling or promoting anything, just information. It's completely non-pharmaceutical, non-supplement funded. It's just dietary information. So that's one thing that ICNM, I totally recommend people to go to that every year.
Great. Okay. So, there's a question from Pat. What type of herbs are excellent for increasing vision or increasing hearing?
I couldn't find something on the hearing, and I'll have to get back to you on the next show on the vision. But someone asked about tinnitus before, and I couldn't find any specific herb for that. There's other supplements that do that, but from an herb standpoint, I'd have to go back and look in my notes.
Okay. Richard said he asked about curry leaves. Did we cover those on C?
Yes, we do. Go back and listen to that.
Yes.
And you can buy them, and you can also freeze curry leaves as well.
Right. The name of the conference was the International Conference
of Nutrition and Medicine.
ICNM.
That's by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM. We're part of that group. They're out of Washington, D.C. They do advocacy on plant-based diets. They're the ones who actually have to do the legislation, right? So we work on Congress, we work on the senators and, and congressmen and congresswomen and the lobby groups of pushing so that we can help, getting healthier foods in schools and in hospitals and prisons and how do we, change public perception, since there's a big lobby group of eating all the bad foods, right? We need to also help educate practitioners and the public as well. So I definitely recommend people go, because it's three days of even trying, because a lot of people who come to that conference, for example, physicians, are not plant-based, and they come and they eat 3 days worth, and they're like, I can't believe. There is a program which I do recommend called Universal Meals, and we'll end up with that, but universalmeals.com. So Cory Booker and Mayor Adams, they're both plant-based in New York. And what they did is they commissioned a study of looking at converting hospitals to make more plant-based. And so it took them about 3 years. They worked with the Culinary Institute of America, and they actually came up. And so now in actually the New York City healthcare system, which is the largest hospital system in New York and in the United States right now, it's in like 5 different boroughs. They serve about 25,000, I think, plant-based meals a day. So the first choice is plant-based on the menu, chef recommended, and the second choice is plant-based. And the interesting thing is that universalmeals.com takes out all the common 8 allergens of the foods that people might have allergies to, and it makes it completely plant-based, but it's got hundreds of assets. So if you want desserts, if you want, breakfast items, you want appetizers, you want something that's really cheap, like, hey, I'm a college student, I only got a couple of bucks on me, what can I make? It's about 150 different recipes that have been vetted, all the nutrition and everything. So now we can take those, we can go to a school, we can go to a long-term facility, and they can just implement that. And those recipes also can be duplicated and kind of exponentially grown. So if we have like 100 people or 1,000 people to feed, it can be applied to that. They will also allow people to come and they do a free consultation to institutions to help them move plant-based. So anyways, I got my mom's place that she's staying, my dad's place, to start serving more plant-based foods, which is helpful for them.
Great, thank you. Tammy says, does mint lower other androgens, not testosterone? My testosterone is normal, but other androgen is high.
So if it's not testosterone, then someone's going to have estrogen or progesterone. I have not seen a study on that because I didn't do a search, but I can do a search on that and get back to you on that on the next show. This study was just showing for testosterone, so I have a feeling it might be just more specific. Now, it doesn't mean like for a male that takes mint that'll lower their testosterone per se, but for women that have excess, it's a way to help with that excretion. There's a lot of foods that help with excretion, like cruciferous vegetables with hormones. And so when we look at like the sulforaphane, the broccolis, the cruciferous vegetables, the cabbage, we have all these kind of products that are concentrated, that have been patented, but we also want people to eat them as well.
That's great. Well, I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and for everybody. And I hope you enjoy your holidays. Don't eat too much. Try to eat more plant-based. Add more herbs and spices to your meals. Take a 10% off and go to our store and sanjeevanystore.com and sanjeevani.net. And I will then see you in December.
Yeah. Do you know what letters we're doing? And one spice I'm going to be using a lot on Thursday, which I don't use year round, is poultry seasoning. And I don't know why they have to call it that, because there's no birds in it, but I believe it does have a little marjoram in it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. See, and it's already going to double the antioxidant capacity of that meal if you have about a teaspoon. Nutmeg, obviously, which is great because this is all the season for nutmeg. Oregano, parsley, and pomegranate.
Ooh, well, this has just been such a fun series. I really am enjoying learning.
Yes, thank you, and hopefully we won't have this technical difficulty next time.
No, I mean, hey, you did so many shows. It's just a little glitch, and the people were suggesting restart your computer, but that would have probably kicked you off Zoom. So whatever you did worked great.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pai, and thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow for 2 great shows. 11 a.m. is Vegan Michelle. 2 p.m. is Vegan and what's it called? Vinegar and Spice and everything, guys. Another spice